This video is about solving using the quadratic formula. So in this lesson, we're going to learn to use the quadratic formula to solve any quadratic equation. So remember, a quadratic equation is anything that has an x squared in it. So the solutions are the x-intercepts of a quadratic formula, which is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, our x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So some things to know is that when we're calling a solution, it can be solving for x as a solution, an x-intercept, a root, or a 0. They're all the same thing. So before we start using quadratic formula, we need to understand how to identify our a, b, and c values. So it's important that our equation is always in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. You have to have the x squared, then the x, then the constant in order to identify your a, b, and c values. So in number 1 and 2, they're set up that way so we can immediately identify the a, b, and c values. So the a is always what's in front of the x squared, so in this case there is no number, so it's just a 1. The b is what's in front of the x with the sign that it has, so negative 6. And the number by itself is the constant, which is c. In number 2, the number in front of the x squared is negative 5 for the a value, positive 9 in front of the x for the b value, and negative 2 is the number by itself for the c value. Now, 3 and 4 are not set up in the proper format. So first we need to move things around. We're not going to switch the signs, we're just going to move things and switch the order around. So x squared needs to come before the negative 9. So we have 3x squared minus 5x minus 9 equals 0. Now I can identify my a, b, and c values. So the a value is what's in front of the x squared, so 3. The b value is what's in front of the x, negative 5, and the c value is by itself, negative 9. Same thing with number 4, we need to switch the order. So x squared first, then our x term, then our number. So our a value is what's in front of the x squared, which is 2. The b value is what's in front of the x. If it's just a negative sign, it's really a negative 1. And the c value is the constant by itself, 10. So we're going to identify the a, b, and c values and then be able to use those. So in number 4, we have the equation 4x squared minus 13x plus 3. So I need to first identify my a, b, and c values. So my a value is what's in front of the x squared, 4. My b value is what's in front of the x, negative 13. And my c value is the number by itself, 3. So we're going to substitute into our quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, which is at the top of your note page, is negative b. So we have negative times negative 13 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 13 squared, minus 4ac, so negative 4 times 3, all over 2a, so 2 times 4. So we're going to simplify a little bit. The two negatives by the 13 make it a positive 13, plus or minus the square root. We're going to simplify underneath the square root, which again is our discriminant we remember from a couple of videos back. So in the parentheses, negative 13 squared minus 4 times 4 times 3. So that gets us 121 all over 8. So now that we have this simplified, we're going to break this into 2 so that we can put into the calculator and get our solutions for what x equals. So when I break it apart, I have 13 plus the square root of 121 over 8 and 13 minus the square root of 121 over 8. So in the calculator, remember, we're going to do the numerator first, hit enter, and then divide by the denominator. So we have 13 plus the square root of 121 divide by 8, which gets us 3. And then we have 13 minus the square root of 121 divided by 8, which gets us 0.25. So let's look at another example. So number 5, we have 3g squared plus 2g plus 12 equals 0. So our a value is what's in front of the g, which is squared, which is 3. B is what's in front of the g, which is 2. And the constant is 12. So when I go to set up my quadratic equation, I have negative b, so -2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, so 2 times 3. So when I simplify this, I have -2 plus or minus. I'm going to simplify my square root. So in the calculator, I'm going to do 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 12. And I get -140 all over 6. Now, I should be able to stop here because I should notice that I have a negative underneath my square root, and we can't take the square root of a negative number. So we're just going to say that this is undefined. So when it's undefined, remember that means that we have no real solution. Number 6, we have w squared plus 10w plus 25. So there's nothing in front of the w, so our a squared, so our a value is 1. There's a 10 in front of the w, and there's a 25 for our single number. So when I go to set up quadratic formula, I have x equals negative the b value plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So when I go to simplify, negative times 10 is -10 plus or minus the square root. And we're going to use the calculator to help us simplify. 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 25, which is 0, all over 2. So remember, we already know that the square root of 0 is 0. So this is really -10 plus or minus 0 over 2. Plus or minus 0 isn't going to change the -10. So it's really just -10 over 2, which is -5. Remember, you're only going to get one solution for x if your square root is 0.